What's going on, everybody? Hello again and welcome back to another episode of the Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Watts. Make some noise, clap it up, get excited wherever you are. We are back with another edition of the greatest show in all the globe, the Welch Report. And we got a jam-packed episode like we always do on today's show. Rolly Romero robs Barroso of the vacant super lightweight title. In actuality, Tony Meeks robs him. So we're going to talk about that fight, as well as how good actually is Rolly Romero, as well as Devin Haney versus Lomachenko happening this Saturday. The chess match of the year. An excited, anticipated bout for the undisputed lightweight title, and it's going to be something to behold, in my opinion. I'm going to give you my breakdowns on who's going to win, why they're going to win, the matchups for each fighter, as well as what's going to happen down the road after this fight. Oh, it's going to be a tantalizing show that we got in store for you, that I got in store for you, and we're going to make it all happen right here, right now. Just remember, for those who are watching on YouTube, and just whoever's listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and every podcasting platform, for YouTube, leave a like on the video, comment thoughts on the opinions, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with everybody that you know, so that we can make this empire of a channel grow and flourish and thrive for the betterment of you, the viewer and listener, because you absolutely deserve it, and I love what I do for you, the people. So, now that we got all these superlatives, plugs, niceties out the way, we got to talk about what's going on in the world of boxing, because we have to step into the ring. That's right. Let's get it started. Ring the bell. Let's start a fight. It's time to go. Round one underway. And then round one, we have to talk about this. What in the world happened in that fight? This was an absolute egregious stoppage for Rolly Romero. That fight between Rolly Romero and Barroso was absolutely horrible, all because of how it ended. Barroso gets stopped in a fluke stoppage by Tony Weeks in a fight that he was winning on all the scorecards, my scorecard included. Every single judge had him up, and if it had kept going, he would have probably won a unanimous decision if it went to decision, but at worst, a majority decision. At worst, a majority decision. That's what would have happened. Barroso got robbed, and this is exactly what I hate about the sport of boxing. Every time the sport of boxing has something great going on, every time the sport of boxing has something going for itself, going well, happening in the world, with Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis actively having a phenomenal big field fight, with Tyson Fury versus Usyk and Joshua versus Wilder allegedly happening in December. At least that's what talks are saying right now. And boxing seemingly lined up to have great fight after reaching a major milestone, which is young, talented, hyped up fighters actively fighting each other in their prime, which normally doesn't happen. Every time we get a situation where everything looks like smooth sailings ahead, what happens? Something like this happens and takes off the spotlight of boxing in terms of what's happening for the good of the sport, and turns it into the dark side of boxing. What always happens with the sport, which is corruption, greed, and out just horrible decision making on the world of boxing, whether it's by promoters, whether it's by fighters, or whether it's by judges and referees in this situation. Understand this about Barroso if you don't know who Barroso is. Ismael Barroso is a brother who's 40 years old, 77% knockout rate, 24 wins, I believe 4 losses and 2 draws, 22 by way of knockout, if I remember correctly. In fact, let me just make sure, fact check myself, because I know what I'm talking about. I just don't want to rob nobody of the credit they deserve. Yep, that's right, 22 KOs, 24 wins, 4 losses and 2 draws. But it's a knockout artist in the division and has been vying for this chance for a very long time. He's not a highly rated fighter, understandably so, but he got put into the fray because he was a late replacement for another fighter who was supposed to fight, and on a couple weeks' notice, The brother came in, said, I'll do it, and put up the fight of his life against Rolly Romero, and was actively dominating the fight. Yes, he was. He was winning that fight by every sense of the word. Was aggressive, was moving forward, was landing shots. Rolly Romero wasn't getting anything off. He was actively winning that fight. And put, mind you, Barroso had put Rolly Romero down in the third and had never actually been put down in the fight. The only time he got dropped, quote unquote, in terms of Barroso, was the fact that when Rolly Romero stiff-armed him to the ground, not from a punch, but from literally pushing him to the ground. That's the only time, that's the only amount of success that Rolly Romero really had in that fight. And it wasn't until, and mind you, winning that fight all the way up until round 9 when the fight got stopped. And Tony Weeks, for some no good reason, had the nerve to stop the fight when a punch didn't even land on Barroso. Barroso was winning the fight. Rolly Romero at this point probably needed a knockout if he had gone 2 more rounds to win the fight. Actually, he probably would have needed a knockout regardless of whether it went to decision or not at this point in time in the 9th round. And Tony Weeks folded. Tony Weeks had one of the weakest stoppages I have ever seen from a referee. It made no sense whatsoever. The fact that Tony Weeks, mind you, Tony Weeks, this is a brother who's let Badu Jack go and fight with one of the worst gashes I've seen down the middle of his forehead in a long time. If you look closer, you can still see the remnants of that fight to this day when you watch Badu Jack fight. And it makes no sense at all when Barroso didn't get hit, didn't get touched, ducked under the punch, and Tony Weeks stops the fight. Mind you, Barroso had landed 2 big bombs on Rolly Romero after Rolly Romero had tried to up the aggression after the first knockdown. And Rolly was the one that was getting the worst of the blows. Even though it wasn't actually a knockdown, it got counted. Rolly Romero in the 9th round came forward, tried to end the fight. Barroso lands 2 big overhand rights. Clocks him again. Rolly throws some straight punches. None of them land. One lands on the shoulder, and the other one Barroso ducks under and is looking to escape out to the center of the ring. And Tony Weeks stops the fight. Tony Weeks stops the fight. And it is horrible. It's horrible. There was no need at all for that fight to be stopped in any way, shape, or form. And this can only be seen as correct. There's no other thing. There's nothing else. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way this fight didn't have some form of corruption to it. Because with how the fight was going, and the way and how Barroso looked after that knockdown, even though it wasn't a knockdown, there's no reason in the world that Tony Weeks should have looked at Barroso and said, yeah, I need to stop this fight. As quickly as he did, there's no reason in the world. None at all. None whatsoever. And I don't say corruption lightly. Corruption is a very serious concern. It happens in the sport of boxing all the time. But I don't just go out my way and accuse everything of corruption left, right, and center, because that's not the case at all. Normally, refs do their job like they're supposed to do. Normally, they do the best that they can do to make sure the fight goes as needed. Normally, it's the judges and commissions and promoters that are involved in the corruption process. But in this case scenario, with how dominant Barroso was in this fight, with how bad Rolly Romero looked in this fight, and what he needed to win in this fight, which was a knockout, and to stop it that quickly after Barroso was actively having success, even when he looked like he was in danger, even though he wasn't, that was one of the worst stoppages I've seen in boxing. One of the worst I've seen in boxing. There have been some horrible ones. There have been some terrible ones. There have been some outright travesties in this sport. And this might top them all. This might top them all. Because in the others, at least, normally a punch actually lands. Not one punch landed in this sequence. Not one. And Barroso's got stopped in a fluke. That, mind you, this is also robbing Barroso's of what would be the culminations of a incredibly heartfelt and tumultuous career. Because you got to forget, Tony Malignaggi put this on his Twitter, I believe. The fact that Barroso's has had an up and down career, and this man has heart and character like you wouldn't believe. This cat went into a fight in weigh-ins crying, and somebody, might have been Tony, might have been somebody else, asked, why in the world is Barroso crying? And it was because of the fact that they got told that Barroso's wife had been kidnapped and murdered. For whatever reason, I'm not sure, but in any way, shape, or form, his wife was kidnapped, taken away from him, and murdered. Before this fight happened, recently, it might have even been the night before this fight happened. And he found out about it. And he still went and got into the ring for that fight. And it's an incredible show of dedication, an incredible show of heart, an incredible show of warrior spirit, when in the worst of times, you still find a way to get into the ring. It's horrible. I hate that he even went through that situation. Hearing that, I wish he wouldn't have fought. I wish he would have pulled out to take time to handle his personal business. Absolutely, it would have been completely justified. No qualms whatsoever. When something like that happens, oh, you should have called out. I would have called it. Anybody would have called out the fight and said, nah, I can't do this. And justifiably so. Losing the love of your life, going through heartbreak and turmoil like that, absolutely. He should absolutely have not fought. But he went into it anyway because he wanted to. It was his choice, and he kept on doing it. Brother, that's some different level of dedication. That's something different. And he have fought through that and earned a shot here in one of the biggest stages of his career, a shot at a title, and he was winning, and you rob him of something like that. Makes no sense whatsoever, outside of the fact that this had to be corruption. It had to be. It had to be. This is the problem with boxing. Every single time you get something good going in the sport, boxing always trips over its own feet. And I hate it for it. Love this sport, but I hate it as well. I've talked about this in the past as well. I hate the fact that this is what this sport constantly does to itself. Because there's no way in the world Rolly Romero should have won. And again, I don't throw out corruption lightly, but the only reason why that this would have happened and Tony Weeks would have stopped or would have had this week of a stoppage is because of the fact that the promotion or the WBC, whoever the world is down the chain of command in terms of hierarchy, whether it was promoter, whether it was promoter or whether it was a commission, had to put that if all else fails, if there's a point to stop the fight, you stop the fight. It's happened before. It's happened before on many occasions. To save a fighter. Absolutely. Absolutely. But they haven't been this egregious. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. Not only does this rob Barroso of a legitimate championship that he should have today, that he should have right now, but this brings up questions about the house fighter in Rolly Romero. How good is he really? And that question, to be perfectly honest, is that he's not good. This situation caused a conversation that should have been had a couple fights ago, especially after the Tank fight. But now it needs to be had. How good is Rolly Romero? And Rolly Romero is not a great boxer. He's not a great boxer. Yes, he's got power. Yes, he's got speed. He's got incredible fast twitch muscles. He built solid. I understand that. The brother is snappy. The brother got pop. We understand that. But he's not good. He is not good as a boxer. In this fight alone, all because of that Tank fight that he got cold clock knocked out in, he went from being a fighter that was on the front for being aggressive, willing to push the pace, now to a fighter who completely on the other end of the spectrum, completely on the opposite end of the floor. Now he's uber conservative. Now he doesn't want to throw a punch. Now he wants to be a counter puncher to the umpteenth power. Butler wants to only catch you when he feels that he can counter you. That's it and nothing else, and it showed in this fight. He said he was outboxing Barroso. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He took what he learned from. He took the lesson that he learned from Tank and completely went to the extreme with it, and isn't throwing punches at all. He wasn't outboxing him. He was getting schooled by Barroso. Couldn't defend nothing. Couldn't stop the incoming pressure. Couldn't counter well at all. The times when he actually did or was able to get in flurries and actively use his speed and power, guess what? He went back to the old tried and true, moving back, looking to counter, and it never worked. Kept getting hit with straight shots to the body, straight shots to the head, constantly put on the back foot, constantly being chased around the ring, and not really any defensive ability at all. All that potential, all that power, you couldn't put it to use at all against a 40-year-old Barroso. Because I'm not knocking Barroso. I'm knocking Rolly Romero. Because Rolly right now is showing the brother is not great. Tank exposed him, and this fight further exposed him. 15-1 with 13 KOs. Oh, let's see who he's beat. Javier Martinez, nobody. Natsu, nobody. Hubbard? Yeah, Hubbard, nobody. Keep going up. Relatively nobody's on his resume early on in his fight. Jackson Martinez got took to a decision. Avery Sparrow knocked out. Not really a big name. Anthony Yiggett, okay. Maybe. But that's it. That's really it. There's no real quality in any of his resume and in all of those fights. Excuse me. Got tongue-tied. And in all of those fights, he didn't show anything of this is a world beater. Oh, this is a brother that belongs in the likes of a Devin Haney, a Teofimo Lopez, a Lomachenko, a Ryan Garcia, a Sandor Martin. Now that he's calling everybody in the lightweight or in the super lightweight division. None of them. He was never on that level with any of them. But because of his name, because of his knockout ability, and because of the fact that he's got a big mouth that he likes to run, he is marketable. And when you're marketable, you get favoritism. When you get favoritism, you can be protected. Even though he got knocked out, absolutely put out, just done away with by Tank Davis. Still, he was able to, in his comeback fight, to immediately get a shot at super lightweight after moving up. What the world? It makes no sense. That makes no sense. That's not something that should happen. It's not something that should happen at all. Not with him. Yes, we know some fighters can fight by their own rules. Rolly Romero should not be one of those fighters. Rolly Romero is a one-trick pony who's got potential. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. He's got potential. He's got the tangible abilities. I see it. He's just not using it at all. And it should have been known when he got knocked out by was it a flyweight, featherweight? Somebody below his weight class in sparring got knocked out cold. The problems that he showed with Tank when you go up against somebody that actually knows what they're doing, anybody can beat him. Anybody can beat him. Like his sparring partner when he got knocked out, and like Tank Davis when he knocked him out, and like Barroso when he was beating him and knocked him down in the third round and would have won by decision if the fight, as it should have, had gone to decision, and we would have been looking at a new super lightweight title on Barroso. Rolly Romero is not a good boxer. Rolly Romero has a big mouth. Rolly Romero has a lot of jib jab talk. Sure, he's got potential to him. Yeah, he's got speed. Yeah, he's got power. I get that. But he's got an awkward style that it can work for him, but more often than not, it works against him. And he's a fraud of a legitimate contender. He said he wanted to call out Ryan Garcia and wants to fight Ryan Garcia next. And I guarantee you, knock him out. Ryan Garcia will knock him out. There's no way in the world. He's not ready for anybody. He's not ready for Reach Prograde. He's not ready for Ryan Garcia. He's not ready for anybody, any of the legitimate contenders at super lightweight. Not one legitimate contender at super lightweight is he actually ready for. Not one. There's not one. Lipinets can take him out. Ramirez will take him out against Sandor Martin. Will take him out. Ryan Garcia will take him out. Pedraza will take him out. Zepeda will take him out. There's no way in the world. None. None of them. Shoot, maybe even Richard Coleman, maybe even will be able to put him out. Even though he's on kind of a down streak in his career. Rolly Romero is not a quality fighter. He is not a good fighter. He is easily exposed. Easily he's exposed. And this fight allowed for him to get away with that. He was losing this fight. He should have lost this title opportunity. He shouldn't have had this title opportunity. And he shouldn't be champion now. And the fact that I hate the fact that this is what boxing consistently does to itself. It constantly fumbles the bag after a big old success that was Ryan Garcia versus Tank. And then rolls right back into this stupid, ignorant decision making by referees. That normally, again, like we said, Tony Weeks is a brother that officiated Badu Jack. He might have been the he might have also been the brother that let Diego Corrales go in that thriller fight. When Diego Corrales looked like he was going to be put out. And instead got back and was able to win. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Tony Weeks was also in that fight. He's been doing this for years. Normally, he's got a track record of making great decisions. Could this be a mistake? Maybe so. Maybe this is just an honest mistake. Maybe. But it's incredibly hard for me to say that this was due to all the circumstances surrounding this fight. Due to every circumstance surrounding this fight. It's hard for me to say that this wasn't something that was a last minute effort to keep the quote unquote main guy in good graces, to keep him as champion. Or keep him as a champion. Or keep him as relevant. Because I guarantee you, if Rolly Romero had lost this fight, we wouldn't know, sir. Everything I would have been saying right now would have been correct, but it would have been, yep, we should have known all along. Not, he's a champion and he shouldn't be. It should have been he was never a real contender, but his mouth got him to where he is. That's what Rolly Romero is. He's not a great fighter, not a great boxer, doesn't have great footwork, has an awkward style that if he knew how to actively use it correctly against the best of the best, he would be hard to fight, but he's not hard to fight. And Barroso showed it. And I'm not saying Barroso is a world beater. No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is Barroso, just with the threat of his power alone, was able to put Romero on the back foot and force him into a shell to the point that he had to fight in a style that was just, honestly, was stupid when you were watching the fight. And that's Barroso. And Barroso, again, deserved this win. But that against anybody else in this division, and and against Ryan Garcia, like you want to fight, oh, it's going to be a bad time for you. Yes, it will. You better believe it will. You're going to be in a world of trouble. A world of trouble. It's going to be hard for you moving up. Because now you got a target on your back. Oh, you better believe somebody like Poker will be more than happy to fight you and take your belt. Ryan Garcia more than happy to fight you and take your belt. Ramirez more than happy to fight you and take your belt. Because in my eyes, maybe I'm wrong. Comment your thoughts and opinions on how you feel about it. But in my eyes, Rolly Romero is not a good boxer. Not at all. In my estimation. And this fight was a job to save his marketability. Because the way Tony Weeks normally refs, the way he refs this fight, how quickly he stopped this fight, it's hard for me to say anything except for something was up. So at the second that Barroso got hurt, good time to stop the fight. Even when he was never actually hurt. It's a pity and a shame. And it stinks of the corruption that has its hands all over the world of boxing today. All thing we can do is petition, cry out, and hold people accountable. And this brings up a bigger question of who refs the refs. Who controls the officials? Who polices the police? Who polices the promoters? Who polices the judges? Who polices all these people? Who in the world is going to be able to regulate what's going on in the world of boxing so that we don't run into these decisions so often? So that these situations don't continually transpire and we constantly have to keep asking, why does this keep happening? Where is the National Commission? Or an overarching commission that controls just the purity of the sport? Make it so that we don't run into these types of things again. A policing system for referees. Fining referees. Suspending referees when decisions are egregious like this. Same thing with judges. All of them. Also, why do we say this? Or why do I say this is also corruption? Why do I say this is also corruption, Because Tony Weeks and the Nevada State Athletic Commission both declined to get into the ring when they were questioned about what happened in this fight. None of them said a word. And I haven't heard something from any of them since. After the public outcry was what this was egregious. This was wrong. This was horrible. And this smells of corruption. Not one word was said back at it. Not from Tony Weeks, not from the commission, not from anybody. And for me, in this situation, that isn't an admission of guilt. I don't know what is. Truly, I don't know what is. We have to call a spade a spade. And this is outright corruption. Robbing a hard-fought fighter of a title that he rightfully deserved. And this is exactly why we see what's going on, not only just in the sport, but with Rolly Romero particularly. At least in this fight. But I guarantee you, if he really wants to fight somebody like Ryan Garcia, this same treatment ain't going to happen again. You're going to have to actually earn the win. And I guarantee you, when push comes to shove, you ain't going to be shoving nobody to the ground like you did against Barroso if you're Rolly Romero. You instead are going to be put out and be knocked out and be put on the ground. Because you are not, if you're Rolly Romero, you are not good. You are not good. Because you got figured out by Tank and you got figured out by Barroso. Now every other legitimate contender at super lightweight, and most of them got popped legitimately, and better know how to get to you than Barroso does. They will take you out because you're not that talented. Your mount's writing checks that your butt can't cash. And you're about to overdraw. You're about to overdraw. Granted, Rolly Romero said, I think he didn't play up like he just whooped him, thankfully. Went and said, I think he wanted to fight. I wanted to fight. He should have continued. Ref should have continued to fight. He knew that it was robbery. He knew that was a horrible stoppage. He had to play it off like you have to. You can't just admit something like that, at least in the world of boxing. Understandable how he said what he said, but also understandable that this exposed you to the point that I have no faith in any of the top 10 contenders in the super lightweight division you have a shot at if they come to take your belt. None of them. None whatsoever. Not one whatsoever. Because Rolly Romero is not a good fighter. He's not good at all. And as time progresses, like he just lost, in my eyes, he's lost his last two. One against Tank, another against somebody who was a last-minute replacement. And now if you want to go up and ramp up against the best of the best in that division that you just got into, and you're already having trouble, oh no. It's going to be a bad time. It's going to be a very, very bad time for you. But moving on to the next segment of the show. Now we have to talk about Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko for the undisputed lightweight title happening this Saturday. Poised as a chess match. It's marketed as a chess match, and it's going to be an outright chess match between those two. But who, in fact, is going to win against each other? Well, now let's break down the fight in particular between these two boxers. Of course, we know Devin Haney, 29-0, 15 KOs. Brother just beat George Kambosos twice to gain the undisputed lightweight title. Now going up against Vasily Lomachenko, formerly the unified lightweight champion at one point in time. Has beaten Richard Comey, has beaten Luke Campbell. We know Loma's resume. The brother's beaten just about everybody was seen as one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, outside of losing to Teofimo Lopez in an upset victory where Lopez boxed one of the best fights of his life. Understandably so. And again, I believe Lomachenko was injured, understandably so, but that didn't take away from the win, and it did not take away from the result. This was a phenomenal fight, absolutely, between them two, and this fight in particular. It's going to be incredibly engaging because now we have to look at who can outbox who. That's really the question. Who can outbox who in between these two masterful boxers in their own right? And the question comes down to Devin Haney. This fight comes down to Devin Haney. What can Devin Haney do to win this fight? And if he can't capitalize on everything that he needs to do, of course, yeah, that sounds like a given, but there's a reason why I'm saying that. Devin Haney is the bigger man in this fight, very much the bigger man in this fight. Even Loma has lauded over how big Devin Haney is in the lightweight division. But the brother's struggling to make weight at 135. This most likely will be the last time he fights at 135 before moving up if he retains. Most likely. Yes, I believe his pop said that he wants to stay and fight and reign, but we see the toll that's taking on his body. We know that he's outgrowing the division. And if he moved up, hey, more power to him. There's plenty of other challenges. He can still move down to fight Tank if he wants to. Let's say if he wins this fight. But the point still stands. We see what's the writing on the wall most likely for Devin Haney, regardless of what happens in this fight. But most likely if he wins. But he's the bigger man. He's a longer man. And because of that, can he take advantage of that height and reach? Can he take advantage of that height and reach? And also, can he take the early rounds from Loma? That's what he's going to have to do. Lomachenko is a slow starter. Lomachenko is a brother like Tank who wants to dissect the opponent, figure out what to do, and then once he gets the game plan, then turn it on. Again, we saw what happened in this Teofimo Lopez fight when Vasily Lomachenko fought him. Started out slow, lost half the fight, and then 7th round and on, won the rest of the fight except for round 12. And he went in, once he figured him out, implemented the game plan and started turning up the motor. That's what Vasily Lomachenko likes to do and will do against Devin Haney. Absolutely. The problem is, can you gain enough ground like Teofimo Lopez did so that you have to worry about if he turns it on, now do I got to really fight to survive or can I now fight to protect? They're two different things. Fighting to survive is when now you're in a situation where you have to win these rounds. Fighting to protect means, hey, I can go cruise control for a little bit and then turn it on and win 1 or 2 and then cruise the rest of the way and have a victory. Two different things. Devin Haney likes to fight when he can fight to protect, not fight to survive. Now, I'm not saying he's a fighter that runs away. No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that he is a fighter that fights on points. He doesn't have a whole lot of pop. Again, 29 fights, only less than 15 knockouts. Not even. 29 fights. 29 fights, 15 knockouts on the dot. Doesn't have a whole lot of pop, so he's not going to just end you outright. But he will outbox you or attempt you. And with that, it'll be with that vaunted jab. If he does outbox you with anything, it'll be with one of the best jabs in the business today, Devin Haney's jab. It's incredible. We saw what he did to Barroso for the majority of his fight, for the majority of both of the fights. We saw how much trouble it gave him. It was incredible. He's been doing that his entire career. Strictly with one punch alone, he's been able to control distance, range, and the pace of a fight. And nobody's been able to find a way to get around it. And because of that jab, he has the ability to do what Lomachenko hates to do, which is force Lomachenko to fight on the back foot. Lomachenko cannot fight well moving backwards. He can fight, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying it's not his best attribute. It's one of his more weaker points in his game. He's not a brother that likes to fight when he's on the back foot, on the back burner, getting pressure. If he is getting pressure, he'll angle out and try to switch the pressure, get you on the ropes, and then come forward. But Devin Haney has such a good ability to control distance and make sure that that doesn't happen, that he could come forward while making sure that Lomachenko can't necessarily use his angles like he needs to fully capitalize on his ability to get fight on the inside. And that potentially could be done with just the jab. Potentially. I'm not saying it will. I'm saying potentially because we know that's his greatest weapon. But on Loma's side, to win this fight, What is it that he has to do? Well, the one thing that he has to do, he's got to get around Devin Haney's jab. Of course, that's the best thing. That's the biggest thing. He's already said in interviews that he knows exactly what he needs to do and how to get around that jab. We'll wait and see. We will wait and see whether that is the case. But right now, the question is, how do you get around the overarching length and strength or length and size of somebody like Devin Haney, who masterfully knows how to control distance using the best weapon in boxing, which is the jab? And if he can get around the jab, then he can also do what Devin Haney used to do, which is fight on the back foot as well. Neither of these fighters like to fight moving backwards. None of them do. But in all actuality, it could be seen that Devin Haney may be worse fighting on the back foot than Lomachenko. Potentially. Potentially that could be the case. And it's because of Devin Haney's defense when he's on the back foot. Devin Haney's a slick boxer, absolutely. Devin Haney can move, can jump back, can do everything you need to do defensively. One of the smartest boxers in the world today, no doubt about it. But the problem is that the way he defends at times, specifically against volume punchers on the inside, it can be a problem. It can be a legitimate problem. Like against Diaz Jr., like against Kambosos Jr. a couple times, not many, but a couple times when Kambosos became aggressive, Devin Haney is susceptible to being hit and is also susceptible to being rocked. Let's not forget the brother when who was the cat? Who was the cat when he fought against? Where's he at? Where's the fight? Where is the fight when he got rocked in Jorge? Was it Linares? Was it Linares? I think it was Linares. I think it was against Linares when he almost got knocked. At minimum, he got wobbled. He got wobbled against Linares. And again, respect to Linares, Jorge Linares. The brother is, again, was the same size, understandably so, and caught him flush with a straight right. Absolutely. Lomachenko can do that exact same thing. But he's even more precise than Jorge Linares at his peak. Loma, if he gets on the inside, can do some serious damage and can really capitalize on that wobbled state, even if the round ends, or even after the round ends. Because mind you, Linares wasn't able to get back and take him out or push him to that same brink again after he got rocked. Devin Haney won the rest of the fight afterwards. But Lomachenko, if he catches him, or he'll catch him again. It's not going to be a one-time thing with Devin Haney. I'm not saying Devin Haney can't take a punch. Again, Devin Haney may be able to actually put Lomachenko down in this way, not knock him out, put him down, because Lomachenko's also been caught and put down. Ironically enough, by Jorge Linares. So both against the same fighter have shown that they're susceptible. Both against the same fighters have shown that they are able to be hurt. The only problem is that one hasn't faced somebody that can actively capitalize on that hole on a repeated basis, and the other one has. Technically, both of these, in a technical aspect, in terms of technical boxing ability, both of these are probably going to be the hardest fights in terms of IQ and outthinking the other. Lomachenko, yes, we know Lomachenko fought and lost against Teofimo Lopez, understandably so, but Loma was smarter than Teo. Teo was able to use his length or his size and strength more so than outboxing him to really take advantage of that fight. He didn't outthink him necessarily. He just used the weight and the threat of his strength to deter Loma doing what he wanted to do. Getting it to a point where if it got to a point where they needed to just win rounds, he could then just go for broke like he did in the 12th round. Because now he instilled the threat of his power, even before the fight was even established. Because it wasn't until Loma got over the threat of his power that then he started outsmarting Lopez. Devin Haney and Lomachenko are probably the two smartest fighters that either have faced in going against each other. So this idea of a chess match is absolutely warranted. But the question is, in essence, for Devin Haney, this is Devin Haney's fight to lose. Because Lomachenko, if Lomachenko gets around that jab, there's a legitimate question of what else does Devin Haney have? Because he doesn't have a whole lot of pop, like he said before. I don't think that Loma is going to be able to not withstand the power of Haney, even if Devin Haney sits down on his punches. Because we saw him sit down against Kambosos, and Kambosos didn't go down. Kambosos went all 12 rounds. And he sat down against Kambosos because he hadn't figured out and read like a book all the way through. That's why he was able to just sit down and just start throwing and wailing. I liked it. I said when that fight happened, I hope he does that more often. I said I would love to see that Devin Haney more and more. But the point still stands that even though that is a Devin Haney that can come out, he only brings that Devin Haney out when he has you fully figured out. But he won't try to hurt you by sitting down on his punches and just trading, going for broke. It's not Devin Haney's style. But he might find himself having to do that against somebody like, say, Lomachenko. If Lomachenko can actively get around that jab and force Devin Haney on the back foot where he doesn't like to fight as well. And if that does happen, now there's a legitimate question of whether or not Devin Haney can recover. Because the only form of recovery that I know Devin Haney's going to be able to do that he does often in his fights is clinch up whenever the opponent has success. It's a legitimate tactic. We may not like it. I hope that the ref calls it more stringently in this fight if he does continue to clinch up like he's been doing in the past without warning. But the point still stands that he will clinch if Lomachenko starts to get a rhythm, starts to get aggressive, starts to have success on the inside. The problem with that is that Lomachenko is willing to fight out of the clinch and won't let the clinch happen. Now you're going up against somebody that won't accept being in the clinch. Now you're going up against somebody that will actively look to, if you get in the clinch, to fight out of it. And either A, score points, or B, make such a ruckus that the ref then has to stop. And it has to force you to actually box. And has to force you to break up and get back to a legitimate boxing stance. And if Devin Haney can't use the clinch effectively to nullify the offensive pressure that Lomachenko can bring with his angles, with his footwork, with his speed, with his precise punching, we might be looking at a new undisputed lightweight champion. We very well might be. So in this fight, it comes down to the jab. The jab and the clinch on Devin Haney. If Devin Haney can't consistently establish and land that jab to control the distance and control this fight, and can't use the clinch to actively nullify any forward progress from Lomachenko, it's fair to say that Lomachenko might be able to actively take this fight. It's very fair to say. It's fair to say that if those two don't happen, if those two situations don't happen, we could be seeing Lomachenko as the new undisputed, lightweight champion. But if they do happen, if he is able to control distance with the jab, if he is able to use the jab to constantly score, if he's able to effectively use the clinch like he's been doing in the past to nullify Lomachenko's forward game, nullify his inside pressure, and make sure the fight continues to stay at his own pace, at his own distance. Now we're looking at a different story. Now we're looking at maybe Devin Haney will be able to retain. If this is in fact his last fight at lightweight, even though he said he wants to stay in reign, which Pop said he wants to stay in reign at lightweight as undisputed champion. Maybe so. Now, if he did it, I would applaud him. I even said before, I would love to see him do it. If he does do it. Even though I do want him to move up because I think it would be better for him, health-wise and body-wise. I think we'll be able to see the best Devin Haney if he moved up to 140. But if he does do that, if he does clinch, jab, use footwork, use his size, and make sure that Lomachenko is on the back foot consistently and all the time, we could very well be saying, and still. We could very well be saying, and still. No doubt about it. But as all fights come down to, especially this fight, adaptability. We've seen somebody like Lomachenko against bigger and stronger opponents adapt, come back and win, and or come but a round short of winning. Like he did in the Teofimo Lopez fight. 1 round short, he would have won that fight. That's it. He was running 1 round away from winning that fight. Devin Haney, are you as adaptable as Lomachenko? Because you're going to have to be doing a lot more. Well, excuse me. Let's say Lomachenko's adaptability shines and he does get around the jab and his angles are becoming too much for you. How are you going to adapt to him? Because the second you start adapting to him, now you're playing his game. Now you're playing Lomachenko's game. If you can't establish the game plan that you want to first and foremost, now you get into a point where if you do in fact find yourself succumbing to Vasily Lomachenko's game plan and find yourself having to adapt to what he's doing, he's got you. Because then every other adaptation that you do from that point on is going to be predicated on what he's going to do. And at that point, he's got you in the palm of his hand. Loma then has you in the matrix. And if he's got you in the matrix, there's nothing you can do. Because you're now under his control. You are at his whim. Because now you are reacting to him instead of him reacting to you. And if that happens, we're looking at a new, undisputed lightweight champion. So who do I have in this fight, to be perfectly honest? It's really up in the air, but I got Lomachenko. I got Lomachenko winning this fight. Because I need Devin Haney to prove to me against somebody of the caliber of Vasily Lomachenko that outside of the jab and the clinch, that you have more in your arsenal that you can use to become adept at being successful. At least against this high of an opponent. Yes, we've seen you use other tools against other fighters, But none of them have been on the level of Lomachenko. They haven't. And now your greatest weapon that you can use against him is, again, your jab, your size, and the clinch. But if you can't do that, what other things do you have in your arsenal that can be seen as effective against this high caliber of a fighter that you haven't faced yet before? You haven't. And when it comes down to that, I need to see him show me something before I can say that this is his fight to win. Because right now, it's his fight to lose. I'm not saying he can't win. I'm not saying he won't win. I'm saying this fight is his fight to lose. Because if he gives up control, he's going to lose his fight. If he's able to keep control, he wins his fight. If he's able to keep control, he wins his fight. Absolutely. But if he starts adapting to what Lomachenko's doing, instead of Loma adapting to what he's doing, oh, it's over. It's over. I'd have this fight probably split decision. Lomachenko. At worst, majority decision. We may even see a knockdown. Who knows? May even see a knockdown. Who knows? Could be exciting. No, will be exciting, excuse me. That could be, shoot, that would be, oh my gosh. But the point still stands. Knockdown or not, I got to say Lomachenko winning this fight because I don't know if Devin Haney can actively keep control with the jab and with his best tools this entire time. And if he has to go and turn into an adaptable fighter against Lomachenko, it's not that he doesn't have the skills to do it. It's the fact that that's exactly what Lomachenko wants you to do. He wants you to adapt to him because if you adapt to him, he can be like water and take on any shape in the world. That's the thing. Because now Lomachenko's not fighting to get out of a vase. Now you're fighting to contain him. And he's changing shape left, right, and center. In terms of the water analogy. That's what this fight is with Vasily Lomachenko versus Devin Haney. It's a chess match. And who can control the board for the longest amount of time. Because if Devin Haney doesn't take control early, like he needs to, like Teofimo Lopez did, if Devin Haney doesn't take control like Teofimo Lopez did, when he fought him for the first 6 rounds, I don't think that Devin Haney's going to be able to win. Because now you go up against a savant boxer just like you. But I've seen Lomachenko be way more adaptable and have way more to figure out than with Devin Haney. Devin Haney's mastered one aspect of the game. Absolutely. In terms of the jab distance control and utilizing his size and utilizing his ability to keep you at bay and stopping your momentum. But Lomachenko has mastered multiple ways of attack from multiple different angles. He's not a one-trick pony because every trick is something different with him. It almost looks like he doesn't know what he's going to do from time to time. He's mastered the art of unpredictability. And that's one of the hardest things to game plan against. So because of that, that's why I think Devin Haney's going to win this fight. We're going to have to see on Saturday night because it's going to be one spectacle of an event. But as for now, this has been another edition of the Welch Report. I've been your host, Jean-Luc Wells. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much for watching. I have had so much fun on this episode. with you today. Make sure to leave a like on the video, comment, thoughts, and opinions. Subscribe to the channel and share the channel and share the video with everybody. So we can build this empire together, like we said before. Thank you so much. Man, we're on every major podcasting platform: Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can find us. We're right there. I've been John McCoy. You've been my beautiful viewers and listeners. Peace and love. We are out of here.